What's going on? It's your boy DameSmiff, and we are going to take a quick moment to enjoy some spicy curry tofu with some rice on the side. So, I essentially had some leftover curry from a delicious meal from an awesome restaurant, but instead of just wasting the sauce, I decided I'm going to cook this tofu within that sauce and then take a little bit of that rice to make this a bit of a complete meal, if you get my drift. And so, for me, I like things simple. I'm not too big of a, you know, get creative kind of guy unless I really, really want to. And as you can see, it's just a tiny bit of white rice. And I have here actually some lamb curry. So, ironically enough, we're going to use lamb curry sauce, and we're basically going to coat the tofu in this and then toast everything in that and then have a little bit of rice in that sauce as well. And that sauce is extremely spicy, so expect to really, really sweat and really, really get a nice burn. But my choice of tofu today is super firm organic tofu, and that's because essentially I like the chew that the tofu has when it's very, very firm. It really does give me the, sensation of the kind of protein I'd like to eat in this sauce. So this is going to be perfect for me. And the one trick I learned from cooking tofu, and I had to learn this over time, was that you want to squeeze out a lot of the moisture. And so that'll make it a lot easier to get the crunch or the sear on tofu that you need in the next process that we'll do later, which is pan searing. And so now I have my little container here that will contain the rest of the tofu that I don't use. And we're basically going to chop enough up for a little bit of this meal. We don't need that entire block today. So let's get another bowl, and that'll be the bowl to basically catch everything after I'm done cutting. And then once we get this package opening, we just have to drain a little bit of the water, get some paper towels, and essentially we'll have to just squeeze out a lot of this water. Now, it's not hard to do. You don't really have to press hard. Honestly, because I have super firm tofu, there's not a lot of water. This is really just me being extra. So if you want to skip this step, you could, but if you want to get some extra crisp, you can go even more firm than I am. And there's actually tools to squeeze out even more water and techniques like freezing and things like that. So let me know in the comments if there's anything that you've tried that might be better than my technique. And so here, I'm actually just going to literally just cut the tofu into sizes of, I guess, whatever you want, honestly. I prefer kind of like a square, bite-sized shape, but you can get creative. I've seen people do different designs and things like that, but if you want to go crazy, you can. I keep things simple, and here's the leftover Tupperware. I heard you want to actually keep this in some good clean water and replace it daily, but I plan on using this literally the next day, so we'll be good. And so the next thing we want to do is put this in the fridge, get this out the way, just like that. Nice and secure. We have these really cool containers here in my kitchen. They are super helpful. You've seen these all over. It's worth the investment. Don't worry about it. And so let's get into making these a little bit more uniform, or I guess you can say tasty. And we're going to get these down to what I like to call nugget size or bite size. I'm sure there's a more technical term for this, but we're not here for the technicality. We're here for the deliciousness. So, as you can see, it's very, very simple to work with tofu. I, again, like the super firm, but there's other textures like silken or just, not as firm tofu as mine. And it essentially just gives you different textures for what you like. So we're going to add a little bit of oil, but you can use honestly any fat you like. And what that's going to do is just kind of evenly cook things, evenly season things, and make searing on this tofu easier to do because without it, it will stick to the pan. It will have, burn spots that don't really make sense. Like if I put garlic salt on everything, the seasonings will burn and it won't burn evenly. There's a lot of things the oil is going to do. So that's going to be very important. Now, we are not going to pan sear today. We're actually going to air fry. And so for a lot of you air fry junkies, there's a lot of different ways you can do this. And for me, it's very, very simple. Toss it in there, the air will do the work. But if you want to get really, really particular, the tips I have is that overcrowding means that some spots won't be as crispy as others because air will be blocked. And as you can see, mine are slightly golden and I want them righteously golden. That's what we call it over here. And so the other tips that I would give you is that you want to find and play with the right temperatures and times. Air fryers are different and foods are different. So that's why you want to cut most of your ingredients, if not all of them, the same size. So we're actually going to get our pan here hot and ready because I want to warm up the sauce. So that way we can get a lot of the oils and flavors that's already in the sauce warmed up and flowing around in the sauce. Now, this is something I can necessarily skip, but trust me when I say it does add a special little layer to the tofu. Like it kind of allows everything to coat around the tofu instead of just sitting on top like a cold sauce. So as you can see, there's a few little bits of bone from the lamb. Let's go ahead and get that out of the pan. And the pan is again just warming everything up while the tofu warms up. All right, so now that the tofu is righteously golden, let's go ahead and put that right into the pan. And as you can see, if you pay close attention, the sauce actually looks a little different now that it's warmed up. A lot of the flavors are back melding and marrying one another, and we're gonna just coat all of that lovely romanticism all over these tofu pieces, and they're still nice and crispy because they're fresh out the air fryer, right? So as we get these nice and coated, the next thing we want to think about is timing. Okay, this is something I had to work on, throughout my home cook journey, I guess you could say. And is that so the tofu here is nice and crispy, but I just coated it in a bunch of basically wet sauce. So if I were to let this sit in this sauce for, I don't know, too long, let's not even say a time, all that delicious crispiness is going to go to waste. So right now we're going to take our leftover rice and we're going to try and hastily break this bad boy up. I could have really done this a better way, but I'm in a rush and I'm not thinking, so who cares? And the goal here is to get it into my stomach faster. But essentially the goal here is to get this rice broken up, meeting and marrying with a little bit of this sauce. And we're going to try and keep the sauce almost entirely with just the tofu because we want to focus on that crunchy goodness. So here we are. The deliciousness is now married with just about everything we need right now. So every bit of rice should be flavorful. Every bit of tofu should be crunchy, yet coated in that deliciousness. And all we really need to worry about now is plating and, again, timing. We don't want to waste too much time sitting here playing with this rice just like I am. So let's hurry up and go. Okay, so onto the plate. Now you can keep it simple and try to just make it look like the pan onto the plate. That's really, really easy, so you can get creative with your plating. Honestly, for me, plating is not that important for me, and it's more about, making sure everything is delicious. But you can do beautiful things like adding some green onion on top of this. Maybe if you want it spicier, maybe you can add a little bit of sriracha. This is already really spicy, I promise. But there's a lot of different ways you can look at plating. Some people prefer the tofu on top of the rice. As you can see, I can do it side by side. But here we are, spicy tofu with rice, and it is bomb. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think, and I'll make more videos like this.